Wherever you are, whenever you listen, it's time for the Rise Up Morning Show. Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the stream, my friends. Good to be here with you. My name is Evan. I'm so happy to meet you this Tuesday morning. We are going to have another great show today. We're continuing Web3 101 with a deep dive into two of the most notorious examples. I'm talking, of course, about Bitcoin and Ethereum. When Alex gets here, we're going to give you a quick wrap up from yesterday. We're going to check in. So let me know how you're doing. Let me know what's going on for you this morning. I see Tori's here. Hey, Tori. And let me know if you, I see Tori missed it. If you missed it, let me know what questions you have. If this is your first time catching us, what questions we can answer for you. And we'll have a great show today. The whole goal is to bring everybody into understanding about what this new technology can help us accomplish together along the lines of writing a better future. Alex and I have a lot of thoughts about it. All our friends know it. And we would love to hear your thoughts and your questions. So you can in the chat continue the conversation after the show is over by joining us on Discord at discord.gg/themany. But we're here live every Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. UTC. And there he is, my good friend, Mr. Alex Popovich. How you doing, brother?
So good. I'm just bear with me here because the desk is in a new spot and I did not account for the aggressive sunrise. So I'm just gonna fix that real quick.
That's an aggressive sunrise, I would say, on a scale of 1 to it's a hi-ya, man. Definitely.
Oh yeah, I'm near blinded right now.
Well, and I'm sorry to you, Alex. I saw your text message, but I don't know that you got any of my text messages. I texted you twice today. I
Ah,
think I might have
well,
yet another problem with my phone. So,
no way.
we'll see.
No, Evan,
Yeah.
no. I'm sure your phone's fine. Yeah.
Listen,
Okay. Well,
man.
that makes me feel a little bit better because I thought you were ditching and ghosting me. Because no, I did not
Uh-uh.
receive any of your texts today. All right. Let's
Tori
all.
says she loved your dog rescue video. And I want to say so did I. I see you're repping Lovable Paws today. You want to give a quick commercial for the crypto-friendly dog rescue?
Sure.
Lovable Paws, baby.
Don't have anything prepared. Um,
I
I
couldn't
guess
possibly be ready.
in my spare time for the past many years, I have volunteered at a dog rescue called Lovable Paws Rescue. There are links in my bio to rescue related stuff. Um, Basically, we're just a nonprofit 501c3 dog rescue in Ridgeland, South Carolina. We several years ago moved out of the tiny little building we were in and bought an old rundown farm, and we've been slowly building it back up again. We are crypto friendly. I made it very easy for people to donate to us, donate absolutely anything that they wanted. All the donation links are on the rescue's homepage. Do not send me anything, just send it to the rescue. And that's about it. We've got a ton of dogs. We specialize in extreme medical cases. We get a lot of crazy dogs with crazy injuries that don't have a shot anywhere else. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it.
And I can vouch. I can say they have a great operation. I got to go there and hang out with Alex and all the dogs. It's an excellent place to go if you don't have anywhere else to go. It's a lot better than sleeping on the street, that's for sure. And that's a little about Alex. If you're tuning in, if you're new to the show, especially if you're catching up on YouTube later, that's the thing to know about Alex. Alex is pretty good at rescuing things, dogs, people, from a ship or a helicopter, and routinely tries to rescue me from myself on this show. And
And
I
your
guess
phone.
since we're sharing fun facts to help people get to know us, I would say one of my favorite things is that every time Alex and I talk on the phone, he always asks me what I'm doing because usually it's something really different every time. Once I was in a dark elevator shaft at a church, trying to go to the rooftop, and once I think I was, setting up a glamping tent. And
Once
I
you
was really
were,
sad you didn't call me this week because all this
mm,
week I have been helping Kimberly build these little tambourines to showcase her awesome photography for her upcoming trip to Mardi Gras. I just made a video about it. You can check it out on my TikTok, Conversations with Evan. Has nothing to do with crypto, but it is a pretty wholesome story. And we're wholesome guys, you know? There's more to us than just blockchains, right, Alex? But you're here to talk about blockchain. So we're doing Web3 101 this week. If you're like Tori and you missed yesterday, don't fret, don't sweat. We can bring you up to speed. Alex, do we have any headlines that we need to hit today before we rejoin the conversation?
Well, there's always a couple we can hit. It's just a matter of whether or not any of them are important.
Well, Alex gives that a quick scan.
There's one little thing that just because why not? It's been a while, honestly. As soon as I read this, I was like, you know what? It's been a while. Solana broke. Again?
Yes. I thought we were past that, man. Come on. Okay, what's the news then? What's the headline on Solana?
Block production is halted. Devs confirm a major outage. Solana is this is hours ago. So pretty recently. But
so we're still in it.
Let's go to the old Solana, the Solana status Twitter page, the official Twitter page, and get the current update.
While Alex is pulling that up, let me remind you that the most helpful thing you can do for show is to give this screen a tap as you're joining, or to submit your own question to the comments. We'd love to see it. We'd love to hear what you think about all of these headlines, and we welcome you to just, kind of kick back and relax as we get into it here. Alex, is it as bad as it looks? Are there signs of life?
I mean, it's down. Although as of 1 hour ago, restart instructions have been pushed to the GitHub, and you can pull them and validate mainnet validator up. Oh my God, Evan. Let's just, you know what? Cancel. We'll come back tomorrow. That was,
we didn't do our warm-ups today.
All right. In my defense, though, say mainnet validator operator 5 times fast. Okay. And then cut me a little bit slow.
Mainnet validator operator. Yeah, that's hard.
That's a big one. That's a weird one. Anyway, it looks like as of 1 hour ago, whatever they needed to do to fix it was pushed. So it was a short outage, but it was an outage nonetheless. And I opened the actual Solana status tweet where they announced that it was, there was an outage. And the first comment I see is from Daniel. And he
our friend Daniel, yeah, he says, what?
From Crypto is Good. Daniel, he goes, at this point, Solana outages are actually bullish events. The comments, have you tried turning it off and turning it on again? That's exactly what ended up fixing it, it looks like. Have you tried downloading more RAM? Okay, wait, I got it. This is funny. I got to show you. This is just the comment section, but we know what's to blame.
Well, you're still loading there, pal.
There we go.
Don't keep me in suspense. Oh. No need for a detective here. Is that BitBoy?
Oh yeah. Well, don't you remember that during his the beginning of his crash and burn, he dubbed himself the Sultan of Solana or some shit?
Oh my gosh, that's his Sultan outfit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not Photoshop. He put that on. That's
well, it takes a lot. Solana is a modified proof of stake, right?
What is the technical term for their weird? Yes,
I think they have an odd consensus method. That is, honestly, this is like a perfect headline to talk about today, because we're going to do a deeper dive on Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're going to talk about validators and how blockchains work and why something like this might happen. And my question to you, Alex, as you look that up is, are they the
proof of history? I knew they used a weird
proof of history. That's right.
That's what they call it. Yeah.
Are they sharing, like, I'm sure they have a map of this. I don't know what the website is, like the validators online for Solana.com. The A primary concern about the Solana network is that it's heavy venture backed, and it's kind of like the Facebook of blockchains, because a lot of these validators are owned. There are machines running the Solana program that are owned by like a central group of people or a lot of people. And because blockchains rely on consensus, it's good to have, me having a computer and Alex having a computer and Tori having a computer, so that if there's a rainstorm at Alex's house, it's not going to hurt the network. But if you're like Solana or like Facebook and all your computers running the code exist in like the same warehouse, and that warehouse has a power outage, whole network goes down. Big time problem. And it's a great criticism of Solana, honestly. Did you see Tori's tongue twister in the comments?
Yeah.
Mommy made me mash my M&Ms.
I was just Tori, I just saw your comment that you weren't sure who I was talking about. First of all, that's unbelievably impressive that you're not familiar with BitBoy. But honestly, that's
hard to see him.
Oh, okay. Well, either way,
he kind of looked like like a cartoon, like he sometimes does.
like a dumbass. So I don't know. I don't know too much about Solana's unique consensus mechanism, because one of the things I've talked about Solana a lot is their just lack of a unified token standard, which don't get too hung up on that now. We'll kind of get into token standards and stuff later, because each blockchain has a little bit of a different mechanism. And just for future reference, when I say something like token standard, that's where the whole EVM compatible thing comes into play, which lots of layer 2s or alternate layer 1s besides Ethereum will advertise EVM compatibility. Just means like you can do Ethereum stuff with this blockchain, which is kind of why Ethereum is and remains king, because in order to be taken seriously at all, you need to be able to operate on it.
It's sort of like a base protocol layer at the bottom of this new blockchain enabled internet. And that's what EVM means. Ethereum virtual machine, EVM compatible. I did a quick GPT to give me proof of history. And
cool.
This is what it says. It says, Solana's consensus mechanism, known as proof of history, is a novel approach to achieving consensus, because that's what we're all about here. It's a sequence of computation that allows you to verify the time between two events. It's not a consensus mechanism in itself, but when used in conjunction with Solana's proof of stake, it enhances efficiency and scalability. They timestamp each transaction in order, which creates a historical record that proves this thing happened after this thing. And then they use the time that it takes to compute that to verify the sequence as like a second check. A cryptographic clock is what it says. So they can verify the passage of time without relying on a trusted third party. Nodes in the network have a shared sense of time, which allows them to achieve consensus efficiently. And this allows them to process transactions in parallel, which is why they can handle so many transactions at once. And combines with a proof of stake consensus mechanism where validators stake their tokens as collateral to participate in the validation process. The proof of history orders the transactions, while proof of stake helps secure the network. And we'll, certainly get into that. I had texted you last night. That was part of the write-up. I have really spent a lot of time since yesterday, honestly. I felt after yesterday's show, I was thinking to myself, this is such an overwhelming topic to really get into. And it's been a long time since we've really, I would say, gotten into the weeds with our friends about, what is a blockchain? How does it work? And today, Tori missed yesterday. So I told her we're coming up to speed by doing a deep dive into Bitcoin and Ethereum as a way to talk about a lot of this stuff. But this is honestly the perfect entree.
It is. Yeah,
but it can be technical stuff. So if you get lost somewhere here, stay with us. And I want to remind everyone watching that just real quick, that we post this stuff on YouTube too, and we can make the Discord a place to talk about it and ask these questions to slow it down and unpack it. And also, Alex, I was going to say to you, if we, I was thinking, we got to get to Bitcoin, Ethereum. We got to talk about tokenomics. We got to talk about consensus. If we feel like it's too much and we're not giving anything enough time, I think we can slow it down if we need to. Like,
I was going to
I
say,
want everyone to feel up to speed with this stuff, before we
yeah,
move on.
I wouldn't be upset if what we do today first is start. I like to always start with like the magic notebook idea, and then we can kind of expand from there. If that works for you.
I think that's great. I think that's phenomenal. Please go ahead and I'll pepper stuff in. Kick it back to me when you're ready for questions. But I think that's a great way. Can you do a little review too, just to get us to that point? We talked about read, write, own. I feel like that's about all we need to say in review. Unless there's anything.
Yeah. No,
I'm well with that.
Tiny aside before we get to that, I had one more little headline that is kind of neat.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother.
No. I didn't say anything. It's kind of a cool little thing. Definitely drowned out by the Solana news over the last couple hours. But so ENS, the Ethereum name,
silence from Solana.
the Ethereum name service ENS, which if you've been around for a little bit, you might have seen people with their like .eth addresses, as a way to kind of add a username to a wallet address, make it a little bit easier for people to find a wallet or send things to a wallet without having to remember or type in, a 34-digit long numeric address. So ENS is working to connect web domains and blockchain names with GoDaddy, which is pretty sweet.
Big step.
Massive, just titan of industry with GoDaddy there, starting to toe dip into some Web3 integrations into their service, and they're using ENS, which is the perfect collaboration. Not a ton of stuff about what they're actually going to be doing comes out. This could be one of those partnerships for the sake of a partnership kind of announcements, but I'm certainly very excited to see where it goes. And Tori, to answer that question, not 100% sure, but basically the idea here, I'll just read this second bullet point straight from the article, which I will share in the Discord. This is just from the block. The collaboration aims to connect traditional DNS with blockchain names, requiring no extra costs or technical knowledge. So
beautiful.
What I take from that is basically just linking GoDaddy's DNS, domain name services, with Ethereum's name services, just to allow the two to talk to each other. Honestly, this probably sounds just like an API connection to me. But I mean, permission.
It sounds like a way to give more utility to the ENS domains.
Yeah, I think that's essentially what this is.
And for anybody who's not familiar, just real quick, ENS is like your DNS. Your DNS, your domain name, your www.evaniscool.com is your address on the internet that you can own. And ENS is like the same thing on a blockchain. A simple address that will resolve to your address so that anywhere on the internet people can find you.
Well, and the other nice part here is the linking of integrations for things like payment services. If your DNS, your domain name, is linked to your ENS, if you have one, so you would need to set one up. You would need an Ethereum wallet, and then you would need to get an ENS, which is depending on which one you get. There's a lot. For example, mine is one of the cheaper ones because I didn't want to shell out for it, and some of them can be pretty expensive depending on how long you buy it for, or whatever. There's also
just like website.
We can. This could be a fun deep dive, Evan, actually, to do ENS versus unstoppable domains and kind of the different ways that you can handleize these things. Just because it's a good example of one big step to make this whole thing more user friendly. Because honestly, blockchain is not super user friendly if you are not technical. But unstoppable domains is a competitor to ENS. They do the exact same thing. They allow you to put a username on your address. The difference is that unstoppable domains lets you register for life for one fee. So when I bought an unstoppable domain, I bought it one time. I'll never pay again. ENS, you need to renew, just like paying for a DNS from GoDaddy or from whoever you buy your URL from or lease it from. If you stop paying for it, they will eventually put it back up on the market. And it's similar things with ENS. If you don't continue to renew it, it will go away. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I would say, in terms of like what they're building, we don't know specifically, but I do have it on good authority. A little birdie told me that they're going to do for the Super Bowl one of those old GoDaddy style commercials with like
Mhm.
the scantily clad women and then just Vitalik, the very nerdy founder of
In
Ethereum.
his
Could you
sweatpants.
imagine that? Just like a bunch of like GoDaddy girls at the car wash and then just like Vitalik standing there. If you don't
Vitalik.
know Vitalik Buterin, you picture like the quintessential computer nerd from Central Casting, and like 3 shades paler and like
Yep.
20 pounds lighter. That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
I think that would be quality TV.
It sounds like the big focus of this collaboration is payment services.
Yeah. And that's a natural fit because your website
Definitely.
right now doesn't have those. That's a crypto native thing on the internet.
Mhm.
An address that is, on a blockchain can send and receive all kinds of information, including payments, automatically in a way that your domain name just
Well,
isn't set up to handle. Great use
the
case.
the dog rescue is a good example, honestly, because if you go to our website, we have a donate page, and then there's like a ton of links, right, to the different ways you can donate using Venmo, Cash App, right? Like we basically just threw them all up there. This could theoretically slim the whole thing, down. Actually, we do have a crypto donate option as well. But you have to go through one of the services that we partnered with. I think one is the Giving Block, and another one is Endgiven or something. And of course, they take a fee and whatever. But they make it really easy to do, so it was worth it for us at the time. This could eliminate the need for that middleman there and just make it easier, and to save us from having to like, okay, well, first what you're going to need to do is get this wallet and then do this thing and then download this and then send us this to this lengthy address. It could just be, lovablepause.eth or whatever it is, linked with our website and all that good stuff. So this one is one that I'm going to keep an eye on because it's super interesting. And this is the kind of stuff that I think is worthwhile. This is like the
And,
stuff that
and
can
can I
actually onboard large amounts of users to a Web3 tool.
can I tell you about a criticism that I had
Hmm.
that I overcame of ENS? Something that changed my mind. I didn't understand at first what was going on with renewal fees. I thought to myself, "This is Web3, darn it! I should be able to really truly own my ENS name." And something that I've come to understand is that, okay, first of all, the fees that they collect through the renewal of your ENS domain, that it basically goes back to what is essentially a DAO, the ENS infrastructure, a group of people who maintain the network, the people who help validate the network, so that ENS can continue to operate and continue to improve. It's not like lining somebody's pockets somewhere. And it also, because domains are like a scarce resource on the internet, as Alex was alluding, the domain he initially wanted was very expensive. Just like websites, there's kind of this incentive for people to go out and just buy a bunch of cheap websites, coca-cola.com, youtube.com, x.com, whatever, and maybe squat on them to sell them to you at a profit later. So this renewal kind of requirement, it prevents people from hoarding and neglecting or um, extorting you for a domain name. It makes it difficult for spammers and scammers versus somebody who might have a genuine need for it. And then they do a lot for models of what decentralized governance can look like. I'm not really well informed enough to give you specific examples, except to say, like the rest of the Ethereum ecosystem, they do a lot of really cool stuff for governance mechanisms that I think will be copied by other like blockchain software companies and their users. Good stories. Those are good. Those are good stories.
Oh yeah. So
Makes me
yeah,
feel good about it.
Timothy, the ENS is just those are the domain names that you can buy to help shorten your crypto address, just to make it easier for people to find you.
Oh, and we got a question. Alex, do you use a VPN?
Yes.
When do
Every
you use it and why? Always? Every time?
Always. I actually just use the native VPN that's inside the Brave browser that you can subscribe to because it's
Yeah.
a lot easier to manage than paying for another one. And I don't have to remember to keep turning it off and turning it on and fussing with it. So I like the
Yeah.
Brave one, but I've used Nord before, which is a big one.
Nord is the one I use. I like Nord.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who use Proton stuff as well.
Yep.
I've not heard
I know a lot of people like
anything bad
Proton
about it.
Mail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Specifically for the email client is what everyone who uses it that I know of at least likes about it. Um, but yeah, I've not heard anything bad about Proton.
No, I think the important thing about a VPN is just to use it. I think a lot of people, often myself included, if I'm being honest with you, use VPNs the way that teenage scumbag uses birth control. Like, maybe. You know what I mean? It's like bad security practice or like washing your hands after you go to the bathroom kind of thing. You know, oh, I only went, like, what does Michael Scott say in the office? He says, I only went number one. Kind of thing, you know, like if you're not using a VPN all the time, it's really not that effective. And if you're not doing super crazy, everybody could probably benefit from one, but I don't know.
I
I
think
think
too though
security is
that it
go ahead.
I think that my slight pushback on that is that it would matter. It matters more that you're using one depending on what it is that you're doing. Like, um,
I agree. Yeah.
there are some things that are just it's that are more worth you using, heavier security on. Um, you know, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of examples of when I would ever theoretically turn it off. But I mean, honestly, it's easy just to use it all the time. So this is not necessarily the strongest pushback of my life. But
No. No. I get it.
I guess I would just say that if you don't use one or you have not before, like it's okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah. And in
It,
the
it,
context of crypto, because we talk about using them a lot to access services that maybe you're not, allowed to access your paywall from, your gate kept from in where you live. If you don't use it consistently with a particular software interface, they may restrict your usage over time. It's like any lie you tell or any act you put on. If you stop using the accent one day and everyone says that's what your voice sounds like, then they caught you, kind of thing, and they
yeah.
can ban you. Um, which is one of the reasons we love crypto. Forget those terms of service, man. I'm out of here. Um,
All right.
you want to get into it? I'm ready for this magic notebook, man.
I was
You
going to
know I
say
love good
let's
analogies.
shall we? Yeah, because I think this
Yes.
could. So just for context, this is Timothy. If you've never used cryptocurrency at all, you're in the right place because this is a great place in my opinion to learn about it and see if it's something you might be interested in toe dipping into more or realizing that maybe there's nothing in there for you right now, and that's fine. This is a low pressure learn about crypto environment where we're not going to yell at people who don't use crypto and haven't used it or don't like it or think it's a scam. I'll validate your skepticisms and give you some basic information about it so that you can decide if it's something you'd like to learn about more. And actually, yesterday's show covered a ton of very good resources that are completely free that you can use to kind of get slightly read in and just learn the absolute basics. And then today, what I'm about to jump into here is just a quick little analogy. Evan, analogy versus metaphor is one of the things that is just like it's my How I Met Your Mother knowledge gap. Like no matter how many times I look it up, like a day will go by and I will forget which one is most appropriate for whichever situation I'm in, metaphor versus analogy. Do you have like one of those go-to like affect versus effect, right? I always just remember a verb for
Oh
that,
yeah.
right? Do you have one for
Yes,
uh,
I often think of honestly a metaphor, and I think a metaphor and an analogy. It's a use of language. An analogy is like an
right?
umbrella. Like some metaphors are analogies, but not all analogies are metaphors. I believe a metaphor is when you compare a thing to another using language, not necessarily like or as, because that's a simile or whatever. But uh, That's as technical as I get, brother. I use them interchangeably. Maybe I'm a fool, but I use them interchangeably.
No, no, no. I mean, it's just one of those. It's just one of those things I
No,
always like. You know.
you're same
Anyway,
here, man.
anyway, bear with me if I use the incorrect analogy versus metaphor. Let me answer Timothy's question really quick because I think I can give the bumper
Yeah.
sticker here.
Give him a
Um,
bumper sticker, but just know, Timothy, this is what we talk about, and this is like a whole
every day.
week-long
Yeah.
conversation. So
Yeah.
so don't feel overwhelmed by this. We're gonna break it down. Hit him with the bumper sticker.
It's a big one. So if I were to nutshell bumper sticker the advantage of crypto, um, without giving you all of the context of all the stuff we talked about yesterday, the idea here is that your life is becoming ever digitized. More and more stuff in your life is becoming digital. And the more stuff becomes digital, the less stuff you actually own. And the benefit of crypto, or the Web3, which is the marketing term used to describe the entire blockchain industry, the benefit of all of that is that it gives you a mechanism by which you can own digital property and own your data in a world where most of your data is taken from you by large companies and then sold for quite a bit of money to other large companies who do shady shit with it. That's a big bumper sticker. You'd be back there for a while to read that, but that's
Can
about
I
as short
can I
as I
actually add a very small one underneath it? This is
Please,
something
please
I
do.
wanted to address
Yes.
today, but it's a tag. There is a very common misconception that uh, crypto, it's called crypto because it maybe enables people to hide stuff. It's encrypted. But the reason we call it cryptocurrency is because it's based on a mathematical breakthrough, cryptography, that came out in the 1970s and was applied to these systems to help them become both secure and transparent. So, uh, crypto refers to encryption and to authentication. You're encoding information so it can be seen by everyone, but only decoded by the intended recipient without the need for any intermediary, which in the world Alex described to you that we live in now, that's huge. Having your own authority over, if I want to send Alex something, no government, no Western Union, no doctor, no anything in between to censor me, make me play by their rules or take a cut, because the information is encrypted, is huge. I want to talk more about that later, but that's my bumper sticker for now. And I would say no. Yeah, Zelly, PayPal, Venmo, they may use crypto sometimes or sell you crypto, the right to own crypto on their platform, but there's a difference. You want to hit it?
Is my sound messed up? Someone was saying that. Um, Michael Kingsman was saying here that my sound. Is anyone else getting any like
No, no,
bad
no, no.
feedback or
I
anything?
can hear you great, brother. Um,
Okay.
I can hear you great.
Yeah, no, that's
You're
the best
welcome,
way to
Michael.
describe like the Zelle, PayPal, Cash App. Is they might sell you cryptocurrency, but they do not use it. They just scrape transaction fees and sell it to you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Angela.
Hmm.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so there's maybe something with my sound here, but
Yeah, Angel says it's better though. Yeah.
okay. Well, throw
I'll
me
keep
a
you posted, but
okay. Popping sometimes.
I'm not
That's
hearing it, and it could be because I have a terrible iPhone.
that's annoying.
Yeah, and actually, somebody said in a comment, just the privacy alone is enticing for me, the peer to peer. But the
Yeah.
other thing that sells it for me big time, I'm not trying to waylay your analogy, but I think this will lay the table for it, is the other thing that sells me big time on it is the ability for the program on the blockchain, this new type of computer program, to make guarantees to people. A neat thing about Bitcoin or any piece of code written on the Ethereum network is that it is unchangeable unless everyone who uses that piece of software agrees to change it. And this is huge. When you use Facebook today to get online and talk to all your friends, or use Twitter to post to your followers, or use Venmo to send money, you got to agree to their terms and conditions. That 30-page document no one reads, that you don't have the power to negotiate, and which they can change at any time. If Google came out and said, we're going to release Google Token, there will only ever be 21 million of them. They are mined using cryptography. That look just like coin. The difference is that if 10 years from now the CEO of Google says, you know what, that was great for a while, but we're going to change it, they wouldn't have to consult you. You wouldn't have any way to stop them. And because they own the machine, they would have the authority to do that. But now, since everyone who operates the software in this network, all 10,000 of us, own it, none of us really owns it, but we all contribute to what it should be, which means that we all have a voice. If we want to change it, everybody has to agree to it, or at least a majority of people do.
I think this is a good segue into the notebook comparison here.
I'm ready for it, man.
Yeah, but Timothy, these are great questions. Buying cryptocurrency happens on exchanges. There's a lot of them. Coinbase is the biggest one. There are Binance, Kraken, Gemini. There's a ton, and essentially, the way that you do it is very similar to how like Robinhood would function, where you create an account, you would link a bank account, and then you would find cryptocurrencies there, and they usually sell many different ones, and all of them do different things, or are better or worse investments, which is not really our focus. We're definitely going to go over the big ones and why they matter and all that sort of stuff, but in terms of, which ones should you buy or anything like that, there's a lot of nuance that goes into that before you would make that decision, in my personal opinion.
I agree. Alex, I think I love all the questions, but I want to encourage you to get into your analogy and unpack it, and say to everyone listening, especially if you're just joining, be patient with us. This is the kind of topic you might need to just sit down for a minute and let Alex and I unpack a little bit for you, because we have had this conversation a lot and don't want to minimize your questions, but we have a pretty good path to navigate it that takes some time to unpack, because this is a dense topic. It's like drinking from a fire hose, Alex always says. So trust us, give us a second to kind of unpack some of it. Leave your questions in the comments and don't go anywhere if we don't get to it right away. We'll come back to it, but get comfortable, sit yourself down, and stay a while. We'll help you get up to speed.
So my favorite way to explain how a blockchain works and why it matters to people, using the simplest terms I can, is to compare it to a notebook. And now I'm actually going to amend this description a little bit based on, Evan, what you were just saying, because I think that you can use the notebook to also explain how the centralized Web2 stuff works as well. So for the purpose of this, just imagine a magical notebook, and all of us have a copy of it. Okay, we're all holding our notebook. In the notebook, whenever something is written in we're all holding the notebook. Evan and I have it, and let's pretend that 10,000 of our friends all also have a copy of this notebook. The magic part about it is that if any one of us writes something in it, it appears in everyone else's notebook at the same time. Okay? The security aspect here is that if you write something in the notebook, one, it appears in everyone's at the same time, and everyone can see it and confirm that you wrote it, and the record is there. If you wanted to erase it, you would have to find a way to erase it at the exact same time in every single one of those notebooks without anybody noticing, which is very difficult to do. And so the benefit here is that once something is written into this notebook, it cannot be removed or altered or fussed with or messed up or anything like that. It is in there, it is written down, it's secure. The part that's interesting is what Evan was just talking about, the way that the notebook works now with big centralized companies, is that we might all have a copy of it, but we don't have a pen. So we don't get to write anything. We just get to read it, and they might erase stuff. and we would just watch it go away and disappear, and there's nothing we could do about it. So we would be able to read only, but this gives us the ability to both read and write in the notebook. Honestly, that's about as simple as I can make it.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
There's a lot of ways that we can kind of expand and keep going. And this is like a really reduced, there is a lot more to this. I have a video that I should pin. I can go back after the show and find the one and pin it, where I kind of break this analogy or metaphor, whichever one is most appropriate. You know what? When I pause and kick it over to Evan, I'm going to look it up and remember. I don't know why I can't remember which one is which. But Crust, good morning. Good to see you, dude.
Yeah, thank you for the likes, my friend, and thank you to Tori for holding down the chat. If that's a spot I can give you a comment, I will expound on it a little to bring it to the specific of some of the architecture. So in the Bitcoin network, when all of us log on and get our paper and pencil, our notebook, there are some people who just kind of borrow space, if you will. Everybody owns their address. Anybody can sign up for it. But the people who hold notebooks and pens, those validators, we called them earlier, they are the people who, when Alex wants to write something in the notebook, they process that transaction. They get a fee, and they help secure the network. There are incentives to motivate good behavior, to keep everyone's notebook honest. And there are also sort of punishments to reduce bad behavior. But what I want to zoom in on is the security question, because I think it's difficult for people, especially when they're talking about something like Bitcoin, which they see as money, in a world with physical money, to understand some of the advantages of Bitcoin without a little more unpacking in your notebook. The notebook keeps everyone honest. This is some of the notes I made yesterday, because the incentives help it to be self-policing. The chains get users to keep one another in check, even though they may not know or trust each other. Because the code we are all playing by in the notebook is the same for everybody, and because it's not changeable, there is no way, like we were talking about earlier, for any one person, unless they get a hold of every notebook, to rewrite what is written there. They don't have to trust that Alex or I is going to maintain our notebook accordingly. They trust that 10,000 of us is able to keep one of us honest, and that the more people come onto the network, the more and more secure it will become over time. Do you have a thought there?
Yes. So one of the ways that blockchain can be compromised is if we talk about something like Bitcoin. And now, just for the sake of conversation, there are exceptions to how different blockchains work, because there are lots of them at this point. And when you build one, you can build it specifically, right? So you can build in your own stuff. So for the sake of conversation, I'm talking about the classic quintessential Bitcoin blockchain. Okay. There is a way that you can alter or screw with the network itself, and you could change things. It's called a 51% attack, which means that you need to control a majority of the network, which in Bitcoin's case means that you would need to singularly own 51% or more of the Bitcoin, which at Bitcoin's current price is like $450 billion.
And not just the Bitcoin tokens, but 51% of the machines that are running that code.
Yes, you'd have to hijack that.
Like the notebooks. Yeah.
So it is theoretically possible, however, extremely unlikely. And the beautiful part is that if this crazy world ever got us to the point where a 51% attack on Bitcoin was happening, we would all know about it instantly. So that's just about the final kind of layer of security, that it is impossible to hide something there, which is the beautiful part. You kind of
corporate, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
The corporations now, they use, cryptography and security from a very like singular point. And most of them, their job is not security. You're trusting Facebook, which is a tech company, to operate according to security best practices. But in crypto, because the code functions a lot of it performs a lot of the security function, and where it doesn't, you have companies who their whole job is security, to help you with the problem of security. That's what they're focused on. I just wanted to add that in and express that it's different. And also the difference we didn't get to, but I imagine you were coming to about um, that everything they store doesn't physically exist. I don't know if you were going to say that, but I always like to say to people, Bitcoin,
Yeah.
it's not, you can't touch it. It's data, it's a state of information. And so it's not like you could just walk into the bank of Bitcoin, all 1,000 of them, pick up the Bitcoin and walk it out. You can't do that because it doesn't live anywhere. There's nothing to steal. Um, it's all information, which makes it a lot more secure than something like, paper money or a notebook.
Yeah. So, Timothy, sort of, they don't work the same. Like the types of checks and balances in government that you're talking about, it's a similar methodology. That there are checks and balances. Yeah, so it's that's not a bad way to think about it. Highly more likely that a quantum computer would break all of the passwords first. Yeah, I'm not sure which passwords you're referring to, but I always like to think about and say with regards to the quantum argument, and the disclaimer here is that I am not an expert in quantum physics or quantum mechanics by any means. I just know one who has a PhD in quantum physics, and she has broken it down for me a couple times. She's a creator here on this app who I wish would have a shorter handle because I can never remember how to spell it all. But the thing that she always broke down for me was just that in a world where quantum computing got to the point where it was going to just dismantle something like Bitcoin and blockchain, the natural first step for whichever hacker and whichever computer is able to do that is going to be traditional finance, because there's a lot more easy money to be had by stealing money from a bank using a quantum computer than it is to disrupt Bitcoin. And at that point, cryptocurrency is going to be one of the least of our concerns. Just imagine,
Right.
so if you wanted to steal the Bitcoin off of my hardware wallet, the amount of steps you would have to go through is pretty significant. But if you wanted to get access to my personal bank account and just send all the money out somewhere else, you really only need a 4-digit PIN. And, odds are that lots of people probably don't have different pins for everything. And once you have one, you probably have a lot of their pins. So it's just a lot easier to steal money from a bank than it is to steal money from a blockchain.
Can I add to that when you hear about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to end by saying it's kind of like the EMP. It's kind of like the EMP argument, that like, oh, crypto could all go down in the event of a giant EMP. And like, yes,
Yeah.
that's technically true that a global EMP would make it pretty hard to do crypto stuff. But in that world, again, crypto is the absolute least of our concerns because at the moment that an EMP like that goes off, several billion people are going to die and no one will care about crypto anymore.
Yeah, your hospital won't work.
We are talking about an apocalyptic event, in which case I don't care about my Bitcoin anymore.
And again, these networks, they are state machines. They store information and can act on it. So if you turn off the power switch, when you turn the power switch back on eventually, and the computers are all talking to each other again, they'll just rebuild the state of the machine that existed before. We'll go back to using it. And the thing I wanted to touch on is you hear a lot about just like, crypto, oh, it must be used for crime. And it's actually very transparent. You hear a lot about so-called blockchain hacks. But in actuality, I can't think of an instance where a reputable, mature blockchain has been hacked. Usually what this refers to is a phishing attack on an individual, on a company, or an institution that uses crypto. And Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and Daniel, who's down here in the comments, would be a better person to explain this than either one of us. But even when you think about like big hacks in crypto, it's usually at like a specific point of transfer, right? Like we think about the biggest hack in DeFi history, the Ronin Bridge exploit in and around the Axie Infinity game, which don't worry about that at all if you're not familiar. That is a topic for another day. But
Sure.
the bridge was a point at which crypto was being transferred basically from one place to another, and that thing got exploited, but not necessarily the blockchain. We knew how much got stolen, where it went, who took it, what they did with it, all of that because of how blockchain works.
Yeah.
So it's
And
not
again,
to
just
say that
the
it can stop crime or stop anything nefarious from happening. It just makes it way easier to track and trace exactly where is this stuff going. Which address took it, to which address did it go, where did it get spread out into 35 million different addresses after that. We have a record, an immutable record of all of that.
Yeah, and Alex is right. It hasn't stopped people from trying, but mature networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are battle tested, not just in theory but in practice. And so far, nobody has been able to do like what Alex described as a 51% attack. It just hasn't proved it's infeasible that somebody could locate more than half of all these computers wherever they are in the world and take control of them. It's extremely cost prohibitive, so much so that it's just it.
Yeah.
People who practice security talk a lot about attack surface, um, and they don't. It's just not a very credible idea in the security community that you could attack a blockchain and rob it or compromise it the way you could a bank vault or somebody's online account.
Let's scroll up and hit a couple of quick questions and then we'll continue here. 1 second, sorry. Okay, sorry. So Daniel, yes, don't worry, more dog content is coming. Did the quantum, okay. Timothy, 2 questions that you had that I'll hit real quick. What can you buy with crypto? Examples. Thanks to partnerships with traditional payment vehicles, you can actually spend cryptocurrency pretty much anywhere that you can use a Visa card, because Visa allows you to transact with cryptocurrency now. A good thing to remember here is that, and this is again kind of a topic for later in the week, cryptocurrency is just a term to describe a thing that can happen on blockchain. There are lots of different cryptocurrencies. The last time I looked at CoinGecko's running tally, it was about 15,000. There are a ton. They are not all meant to be dollar replacements or payment services. Cryptocurrency is kind of a tool. The best way to describe it is that there are lots of blockchains, and all of the blockchains can do different things. They were built for different reasons. They are not all built to do the exact same thing. They all have similar benefits. There's a reason that people would use it. That's the security, that's the transparency, all that kind of stuff. The cryptocurrency for that blockchain is just the thing that you need to make whatever its purpose is happen. So before you think about the kind of tunnel vision view that like all of these different cryptos are just ways for me to like theoretically buy groceries in the future, that's not really the point. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost, is that we sort of treat all crypto as if it has like the same end goal, which is to replace the US dollar and be spent. In fact, almost none of it is really meant to work like that.
Alex, can you give a practical example at this point, or maybe
Yeah.
just can we quickly detour to give practical examples of what non-money cryptocurrency might look like?
Yes. So the best example, in my opinion, is just to compare Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're the 2 big ones. So Bitcoin was created to be peer-to-peer money. It was created to be money that Evan and I can send to each other without ever having to deal with a bank or another financial institution or anything. We can just deal between me and Evan. Ethereum is not meant to do that. Ethereum is another blockchain. They work differently than Bitcoin. The purpose of Ethereum is to allow other people to build stuff. It's sort of like the App Store. Imagine, this is not the world's greatest analogy. I did look it up. Analogy is the one I want.
You were thinking about it.
I was thinking about it. This is not the greatest analogy, but bear with me. Ethereum is kind of like the App Store. The point is that people like me and Evan could have an idea for a new app or program, and we could build it on the Ethereum network. If we wanted to do that, we would need to get some of the Ether, the cryptocurrency that is native to the Ethereum blockchain, because us using that network costs Ether. That's about the best way to describe it. But in no world is Evan and I going to like take our Ether, the Ethereum cryptocurrency, and go to the grocery store and spend it. That's not what it's for. It's for me to pay Evan to use his application, or Evan to pay me to use my application. You've probably seen or heard the term NFT before. If I am building NFTs on the Ethereum network and Evan wants to interact with that, he needs to get himself some Ether so that he can interact with my NFT project. But it itself is not meant to be money. You could build money on top of Ethereum, but that would just be like putting an app in the App Store, right? You're not going to use the App Store. Actually, that is a better analogy. You're not going to use the App Store to pay somebody. You're going to use an app that is built on it. And that's basically how Ethereum works.
Can I interject to say the
Absolutely.
way that Bitcoin is like a spreadsheet or like one program that basically keeps track of everyone's address and how many Bitcoins they have? It's written in a language called Bitcoin script, super limited. And that's what it's made to do, is talk about those things. How do we create multiple user addresses? That kind of stuff. Ethereum is like a platform to build other computers on. And I think about it like the iPhone. When the smartphone came out, the iPhone came out, somebody was able to build an app on top of it. Ethereum's programming language, Solidity, is much more expressive than Bitcoin script. And there are other languages that can be sort of translated to build things on this Ethereum computer, the way that many developers can use different programming languages to build games or banking apps or Facebook on your iPhone. And there's this sort of accelerating relationship we can see with Ethereum that also happened with the iPhone, the app platform feedback loop, where because the iPhone existed, someone could make an app. And because people made more apps, people paid more attention to iPhones. They became cheaper over time. They became more prolific over time. And coupled with network effects, now more people have access to the internet than have access to clean drinking water, in part because these machines made it so easy to build stuff we wanted to pay attention to. Ethereum as a platform is like that. It combines the best of blockchain with the best of programming languages so that anybody can get that democracy, that security, that guarantee, the commitment from the software that no one owns but all of us own. And that can have benefits for all the different kinds of apps you might use on something like the App Store today, but is much more flexible than Bitcoin, which is basically designed to do that one thing. We've built, games. We're currently building a game with tokens, pieces of information on a blockchain to represent achievements that don't physically exist, to represent characters or skins or hours played. And this concept can be applied across industries pretty much anywhere there's information that's important to prove or authenticate. The deed to your house, your college degree, your insurance policy, your marriage certificate. We honestly could, we could play that game all day.
So, just to recap here, because we're starting to get a little bit in the weeds, which is great. That's how it happens.
I love the weeds. Yeah.
Questions happen and we get in the weeds. This all started with just a quick analogy about how to visualize what a blockchain is. The analogy that I used is a magical notebook where everybody owns one, or I should say everyone who wants one can get one. And if one of us writes something in the notebook, it appears in everyone else's notebook all at the same time. And it cannot be erased or scratched out or altered unless somehow you manage to control everyone's notebook at the same time, but you don't even know where they all are because all of us are scattered all over the world. So it is a very secure way to keep records is essentially the best way to think about a blockchain. Cryptocurrency helps a blockchain function. So the reward, here's how I'll add Bitcoin into this magic notebook thing. We all have the notebook, and every single day we open it up and we check to make sure that no funny business is happening. And the reward for securing that network of magical notebooks is that you get paid by the network in Bitcoin for keeping it safe. The analogy loses a little bit of potency, I think, here in this particular case, but I think you know what I mean. If someone writes something in the notebook, if Evan writes something, it's labeled so that we all know that Evan is the one who wrote it. And then Evan cannot go back later and say, no, I didn't write that, or I wrote something else, because the record of what he actually did is in there forever for everyone to see. So kind of want to leave the notebook analogy at that. As we now get into other aspects of this industry, things will undoubtedly get more and more complicated. But I guess the thing that I would like to just make clear is that, I don't know the best way to say this, Evan.
Take your time.
This is a complicated topic. I would not sit here and pontificate and tell you that like I understand all of it or how all of it works. But another saying that I like to use with this is that in order to get the benefits of blockchain, you do not have to be a computer engineer, in the same way that you don't need to be an auto mechanic to drive to the grocery store and buy food. So don't worry too much about the fact that this inspired 4,000 other questions, or you still feel like you don't know anything, because I've been reading about this stuff for years and years, and I still have a tremendous amount to learn. Yeah. People ask me all the time what I think about this project or that project, and most of the time it's like, I've never heard of it, or I don't know anything about it. So don't worry about that. This is a long road. You're not going to grasp all of this on day one. It's just a good place to get started. And Evan,
that might be a good point to just plug everything real quick. Is that okay?
Yes, good idea.
To say this is a show designed for that purpose. We have just shifted to a weekly format so that we can unpack themes in more detail. This week is Web3 101. We're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Alex, I think I love the question and answer. We always want to be available to your questions. I do think for this topic specifically, we might need to lecture a little more though, just because you know a ton about this, Alex. You're a great teacher about this. But when we get taken out of order, it's hard for us to chase the rabbit. And you almost have to talk about it. It is helpful to hear this information in a certain order for a light bulb to go off. And if you want to ask a question that we don't have time to address here, if we miss it, you can join us in our Discord server. It's free. It's always going to be free. It's discord.gg/themany. Alex and I are there. Our colleagues and co-founders in FACELESS Labs are there. The Faceless Many are there. The everyday people just like you and me who are working to understand this technology, AI, other sorts of future scary tech, to make it a little more human, to learn how we can leverage it to rise up and write a better future for all of us. So that's discord.gg/themany. Alex put it in the chat below. And also, these shows are going to be cataloged on YouTube. We have yesterday's episode up, Faceless_Labs. That's the name of the YouTube channel, Faceless_Labs. So if you're needing some help with this, to wrap your mind around it, check out our content. Come back tomorrow. We'll be here, and join us in the Discord. This is totally something you can learn. We are not, computer programmers. We work here, but I would say, though we have become computer-friendly people, I don't know. I think Alex and I both have different strengths beyond that really bring us to this, So do we have a couple more questions in the chat? I feel like we did, and I didn't mean. I think I might have interrupted your train of thought too. So don't let me derail you, brother.
Nope. I was just going to say that I had analogies for proof of work and proof of stake, the two big consensus mechanisms, but I would rather save that, I think, for probably later in the week, just because I think getting into consensus mechanisms is a whole other can of worms that probably requires its own explanation before we even get into the specific ones. So I'd rather, I don't know if you had a plan to hit any of those today, but I think I'd rather just pin
No.
it and say
My plan today, honestly, truly, and maybe we can do this tomorrow. I had written some bullet points and details because I was thinking about how am I going to explain Bitcoin and Ethereum together to relate, and we did a lot of it today.
Yep.
I honestly might like to do it again in a little more long form tomorrow because I love answering questions and going back and forth with you. But I think both of us have mental models, analogies, and metaphors for how we have come to think about this. That when we can unpack it, makes it easier for someone to say, "Aha." The only thing I wanted to add is maybe we can answer a couple more questions today, source a couple more of those questions, and then just review. Do you feel good about that? And I'm
Yes.
seeing lots of good chat here, but the question I wanted to answer that you answered in the chat, and of course I'd love to hear more from, is what is the main advantage of blockchain? Privacy. And I think you can make compelling arguments for many advantages. But
I
the
think,
one thing, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think sovereignty is the most important piece of blockchain.
You worded it as sovereignty. Can you unpack what that means?
It means, so yes, it just means that I only need myself to do the thing I'm trying to do. Um, in the Web 2 world, there is no digital autonomy for people. If I would like to go play a video game on my Xbox, I need to log into the account that Microsoft allows me to maintain, and then I need to download a thing that Microsoft allows me to have after I've paid them to do it. And then if I would like to keep playing it, I have to hope that they don't revoke my access to it, which they could do at the drop of a hat and ban me for whatever. In the world of blockchain, I don't need to rely on someone else to let me use my own property. I just get to own it. The same way that a skateboard. If I wanted to use my skateboard, I just go take it out of my garage and go ride around on it. Right. I don't need to like call somebody and ask permission and then hope that they unlock my skateboard and give it to me in the morning for me to do it. I just get to use it. A little sloppy, but I think you know what I'm saying. So I appreciate the ability for myself to own something digital, verifiably and provably, and then get to use it without someone else's permission.
That's a great way to say it. Okay. I would say the biggest thing about it for me in terms of advantage is, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. The commitment that enables trustlessness and also trust. Blockchains enable trust a way that other traditional systems could never do. But they also, let me back into this, I'm sorry. Right now, almost everything in the world, all our systems, whether it's money, whether it's politics, whether it's the internet you access, are kept by privileged intermediaries. Your money supply, if you live in the United States, is controlled by about a dozen people, most of whom are elected or appointed officials. Yet the decisions they make impact all of us. And our single vote really doesn't give us a lot of power. In a blockchain network, closed systems like this are not the default. Open systems are. Systems that nobody needs permission to join, use, build on top of. And because of this, we have the ability to build different kinds of incentives. Incentives for people to cooperate, to coordinate at scale. if you look at the money system, it incentivizes competition with the myth of scarcity. But because crypto systems are built on a foundation of openness, when you have something that is open by default, you could build something we might say closed or centralized on top of it. Edwin asked in the chat about Onyx, which is a project by JP Morgan built on Ethereum for their private network. JP Morgan controls that token, which is how a bank would like to have it. Yep. But it's built on top of Ethereum. Anybody anywhere else could build a competitor token to Onyx that functioned as a banking token, but which all the users were able to control. It's more democratic. But because this is all possible because of what I said in the first place, blockchains can make commitments. It is not JP Morgan owns the blockchain, owns the network, and so they are in control of it. It is that there is a piece of code that anybody and nobody can own and that all of us can contribute to. This keeps that network open. It allows the blockchain to make commitments like there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That, to me, that is the biggest thing. You are not relying on a judge or a president to do the right thing. It is written into the foundational layer that they can't do the wrong thing. They can't abuse power. The only way to change it is if all of us get together and agree on it collectively. I think that's the most powerful thing, but I would say, just as a bullet list of other things that are powerful, I would agree with Alex. That touches sovereignty, but democracy, transparency, scalability. When you start with something like that, mostly it's open source. So instead of just like hiring the best talent to work for your company, you attract all the people who might believe in that value or that movement, right? I think there are a ton of advantages to it, honestly. But that's number one, the ability to make commitments and that open foundational layer. I think it changes the whole game for everything, big time. If you just think about, what did William say? He said, if you just think about what blockchain did for money, that would be enough. But like Alex said, it's going to touch all these different industries. Pretty much any aspect of your life, any industry where you have to rely on trusting another person, accounting for something, sharing information, verifying it. Blockchain's a good solution. Did I miss 71 comments? Did I misread that? I'm so sorry.
So Mo, that's a really interesting question. The honest answer is that it kind of depends. But yes, it would theoretically help because not all of the infrastructure is dependent on like one piece of hardware. If a number of people securing a blockchain were to go offline, there might be fallout, but the thing wouldn't like cease to exist or stop operating if other people were still online. So one large piece of the infrastructure going down could change things, but the rest of the world still participating in supporting that network would allow it to continue to work. And the beautiful part is that your ability to own this stuff and see it does not rely on an internet connection. It doesn't disappear if your Wi-Fi goes out, your crypto doesn't disappear, kind of thing.
Yeah, our notebooks are still in our possession.
Yeah. Yep. But the reason I say it depends is because there are still pieces of like integral infrastructure that could be damaged or destroyed or removed from somebody that would make it to where it doesn't really matter that it still exists, if you had no other means of communication or you were not able to get anywhere or all of that sort of stuff, this is kind of the global EMP event. Like, in that moment, it wouldn't matter. And Edwin, yes,
Alex, is Daniel still here?
Huh? I don't think.
I'm sorry. You paused and I thought you were done and I asked you a question. I think we have a lag. I'm sorry.
A little bit. We do. Yeah. But Edwin, yes, the EMPs are a danger. But like I said earlier, in the way that they are a danger to this, they are a way bigger danger to way more stuff. And in a world where an EMP that was big enough to disrupt Bitcoin happened, a tremendous number of people are going to die, and we have way more problems, like medical facilities all going offline, banks, governments toppling, military infrastructure crumbling. Yeah, we have a lot bigger stuff to worry about than we do Bitcoin, so it's not really a concern for the Bitcoin network.
But at the same time, I would say, Alex, Bitcoin also could solve some of those problems. If we know each other, if we know the math problem and we know each other's ledger, and enough people use Bitcoin in a post-apocalyptic scenario, because eventually, when everything comes back online, we can reconstruct the connection of the network. We can still transfer that currency, and it's way better than gold. You don't got to put it in a backpack and carry it with you. You know.
Yeah,
I got in an argument with Kim about that the other day.
No, that is a really good example too. A lot of times we didn't think about this, and when we do more of a deep dive into Bitcoin, we'll talk about it for sure. But Bitcoin is often equated to the digital equivalent of gold. The difference is it's like way cheaper. It's way more energy efficient. It's way more environmentally friendly, despite what you may hear. It is way lighter. It's way easier to move. If you wanted to send $1 billion from the United States to China in gold, wow, that's a lot. If you wanted to do it in Bitcoin, it would take you like 20 minutes, and it would cost a fraction of what it would cost to move that much money in gold. It's not even remotely comparable. And you could carry $1 billion worth of Bitcoin on a flash drive. Whereas
and another thing to note here is, because people are concerned about the non-trivial amount of energy required to run a proof of work blockchain like Bitcoin, is first that pioneers in our industry are really leading the way on green energy for all kinds of computing. There's a table I made a note of the other day. I'm reading my way through Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. Great book, highly recommend it. And he has this fantastic table where he talks about Ethereum's transition to proof of stake. Ethereum, like Bitcoin, used to validate and protect its network by a proof of work consensus, where you solved a difficult math problem that required more and more energy over time, and that's how tokens were released and transactions were validated. But they've shifted to proof of stake. Pony up a certain amount of money so that we know you're not going to do something bad, or we'll take it from you. And since that time, here is a comparative table of energy use. Airbnb now uses 8 times, let me say this. Ethereum used to consume the energy of a small country. Bitcoin still does. Now, Ethereum uses 1/8 the energy of Airbnb, 1/100th the energy of PayPal, almost 200 times less energy than Netflix, 7,500 times less energy than Google. All gaming in the USA takes 13,000 times more energy than Ethereum. Gold mining takes 50,000 times more energy than Ethereum. Bitcoin takes just a little more energy than gold mining, but remember, this is not just mining of Bitcoin. This is all its use, and all the use of gold is, the shipping, all the stuff Alex said, the storage, big time energy waster. The number one thing on this table that they compare Ethereum to, the banking system. It uses 92,000 times more energy. This is in terawatt hours consumed per year than Ethereum. So blockchains, compared to the way we do things now, are tremendous. It's almost impossible to overstate. That's a huge number, how much more efficient they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also worth noting that the majority of energy used to support the Bitcoin network and mining infrastructure is renewable. The energy that is created as a byproduct of Bitcoin miners operating can be harnessed and used. And there are actually some cities in colder parts of the world that mine Bitcoin that capture that heat and recirculate it into small town infrastructure for heating of buildings, which is pretty cool. All of El Salvador's Bitcoin mining operations are run from a renewable geothermal energy plant. And when I say the majority, I mean more than 50% of all of the energy used to mine Bitcoin is green energy. It's pretty cool. it gets a tremendously bad rap, but it's actually one of the greenest industries there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're concerned about the environment, Alex and I. And if you are a person who is concerned about the environment or concerned about equity or justice, blockchain is for you. There's a story that you've been told that it's mostly about money, mostly about speculation, that crypto means it's encrypted so people can hide behind it. These are these are myths that have been debunked, people.
It's funny.
Those
It's
folks are
funny.
loud, you know.
It's funny because much like, hold on.
Wow. Did you see the look on his face? I'm worried. Alex, we're praying for you. P.S. people, Alex's house is really as beautiful as it looks. This is a good time to remind you that we are just two guys sharing our opinions on the internet. You should verify everything we say, and we would invite you to do so and have a deeper conversation with us. If you've got a question about crypto you've been hesitant to ask, drop it in the comments. If you want to extend the conversation, follow us here. Join us in our Discord server at discord.gg/themany. Rachel, please don't advertise your trading bots. I love that you have them. I think that's awesome. I hope they're doing well for you, but we're not trying to sell anything to people here except maybe a little trade for time and attention. And, if you want to get a morning show mug, I've got the links working again. Alex, is everything okay?
Yeah, Phoebe was scratching her ear, and
Oh, poor buddy.
I don't need it to start bleeding.
No.
Okay, I was just gonna say before I ran away that it's funny to me that the two biggest misconceptions about blockchain in general are that it is horribly energy inefficient and killing the planet, and that it is exclusively used by criminals, when it is in fact mostly supported by green renewable energy, and it's actually way harder to be a criminal with blockchain than it is with traditional finance, because everyone can see exactly what you do, when you do it, and where you do it, and that's kind of funny to me.
Alex, why number no go up then? Mishiste wants to know. If all this great news, how come Bitcoin isn't just $1 bajillion trillion yet?
Yep. Well, actually, I just had
And
this
that might be
conversation.
something we get to later on, honestly, and when
Yeah.
we're talking about tokens or whatever. But
Yeah, it is a good question. In general, I honestly think that well, one, the value of it with regards to its US dollar equivalent is dependent on a whole lot of other things. There are lots of, I think, powerful entities with lots of money, very incentivized to, make the prices do what they would prefer them to do. And apparently right now they would prefer them to be where they are. It's just, it's one of those things. The use case and the value, generally of like what this stuff can offer, is not the same as its US dollar equivalent, I guess. And I'm less concerned with the price than I am with the technology. And to be honest, like the coolest parts of it are just really not that sexy. And so like those solutions being solutions are not a big deal for most people. If you get it, you think it's cool, but it's not the easiest thing to just like sit down and dig into and decompress. Actually, Mishista, you had a great point of something we're going to get to later. The UX conundrum. Most crypto related stuff has a horrible user experience. It's very hard to use. It's very clunky. It's very bad in general. And so it's not able to be used for what it's supposed to be used for by a large amount of people. Mo, that's a great question.
Yep.
Yeah. Can criminals just hide behind their addresses? How are they found? So the cool part is that people can use a crypto address to remain anonymous and do stuff. We can still see that whoever that address is doing the thing they're doing, but we don't know who it is. You do not need to attach your identity to an address to exist. So yes, in that sense, a criminal could hide behind an address. However, we have this phenomenon where in the world that we live in at this point, certainly, in order to use crypto in your day-to-day life, you need to off-ramp it into fiat currency so you can spend it. And all of those checkpoints where a company will pay you in dollars for your crypto so that you can withdraw it to your bank or whatever. Those all require KYC. So it's really hard to do that part anonymously. So if I am a nefarious actor and I steal somebody's crypto and I'm hiding behind an anonymous address and I steal it, I could just sit there forever with it and never reveal my identity. But I could also not really do anything else with it. The second I move it, people are going to know. Wherever I move it to, people are going to know. And if it ever connects to a place where an identity can be verified, that person will become connected to the crime of the theft originally. It becomes forever known that it was stolen Bitcoin, and because of the nature of blockchain too, no matter where it goes, we'll always know that it was the stolen Bitcoin. Kind of like dollar bills with a particular serial number range that were used for a crime. No matter what you do, we'll always know that those serial numbers were the ones that were used to pay that ransom or that were stolen from this bank or whatever. So yes, sort of, you can hide as a criminal and be anonymous, but your ability to then do stuff with what you stole is severely limited. Everyone will know where you are at all times.
A fantastic explanation, my friend. There's a I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Isn't that weird when that happens?
It even affects us. What?
You just it happened to me yesterday. I was out with Christina and I just opened my mouth to say something and instantly I forgot what I was going to say, and that feeling of it just falling out of your head is so weird.
Yeah, it's unsettling, honestly. Oh, hey, Edwin. I mean, Edwin, and then I saw Edwin's name next to Selvin's picture. Selvin. Hey, Edwin, too. It's good to see you always. But Selvin, my friend, it's good to see Selvin. Selvin says KYC and off-ramping is why crypto is as much a downside as it is an upside. And also why there are a lot of viable options for people to continue to solve the problem of decentralized identity. One of these buzzwords, decentralized. What is a decentralized identity? But that's one of those things that Alex is saying is, to me, a lot more sexy than just let's do money with this. Imagine a world where, because Alex is on a blockchain network, we can have security and verifiability about who he is. But if he doesn't wish to reveal that to everyday users who can see the ledger, we can use cryptography to encrypt his transactions of information so that only the people he intends, when he intends, can view it. Right now, there are all kinds of companies that don't specialize in security. Your doctor's office, your mechanic, the last place you swiped your credit card to get a smoothie, that are keeping track of your very sensitive financial and personal information. We will talk about this later, but there are different types of cryptography that blockchain networks can apply to allow one party to observe and verify information, to verify information about another party without needing to observe it directly. I can learn all kinds of things about Alex based on what he has chosen to make public that are not necessarily relevant to a decision that I might need to make with him, a transaction. And I would also say, because Selvin's concern is very valid, the difference in this sort of world that I observe, the world of blockchain and what we would call Web3, the future internet, is that in the past, the people you bought your smoothies from and your doctor and your Facebooks, they had the job of being your provider and also doing your security. But now the companies that are doing KYC, know your customer, verifying people's identity and protecting that information from becoming public, they are security professionals. That is their entire job. So in some senses, yes, we are still sharing that kind of information with them, but they are incentivized to protect it versus somebody like, Facebook, who might be incentivized to sell it. So I see it as an improvement.
Do you feel
and
so?
Not a cause for concern.
A couple CBDC comments, which is a great opportunity for me to say my daily PSA about CBDCs. You have been led astray by some very large content creators in this space that you should be terrified of the impending CBDC arrival. And I always just say we've had a CBDC in this country, especially for many, many years. The US dollar is a CBDC. It's mostly digital. The vast majority of the transactions that you do with it are digital. If the central bank that controls it, the Federal Reserve and the US government, wanted to control what you did with it, or where you could spend it, or what taxes you had to pay with it, or make your money expire, or any of the things that anyone scares you about with a CBDC, they could do it right now. And they don't, for a reason, because if you want to do something that would truly probably push a large chunk of people over the edge, mess with their money and take all of their money, delete all of their money. But the ability for them to do that exists. And it's very simple, and they don't need anyone's permission. And actually making it a blockchain, just to go with what we've been talking about earlier in the show today, if they were to put it all on a blockchain, it would just be even more obvious that they are doing bad shit. If they ever did release a CBDC and tokenize the money in the United States, absolutely nothing would change. It would probably still operate the exact same way. You would probably not notice much of a difference. I don't think that it's going to happen anytime soon. And if it does, nothing crazy is going to happen. In the same way that, if it wouldn't be adopted by large corporations, it will if the government says that it should be. But the symbiotic relationship between corporations and government is a tale as old as time in the United States. Yeah. And I wouldn't worry about it too much. And just know that 99.99% of the people who talk about CBDCs in and around the crypto space don't understand how our current money system works. And they are just trying to scare you for whatever reason. But it's mostly...
Yeah, Alex, I want to add too, something I often think about is how the existence of something like a CBDC would, one, help increase literacy about what cryptocurrency is. It would make people more comfortable and help them to understand something like Bitcoin, and also would underscore kind of a demand for it. Because Bitcoin, unlike a CBDC, it's decentralized. Nobody owns it. Nobody controls it. It's permissionless. I don't have to worry the government is going to censor me. And it's global. It's not like USD and British pounds where we got to do some conversion and give somebody a take for handling the transaction. We just do it. And everybody around the world can use it. To have a currency like that in a world of CBDCs, it becomes much more interesting. And many people will say, oh, we need this even more because we don't like what this thing is trying to do. And it has taught us how to use this thing. It teaches people what the benefits of cryptocurrency are and will encourage them, I would say, to demand it. Alex, do you mind if I go back to a question that Selvin is talking about here? This is a really interesting discussion about identity. Edwin said earlier that, Edwin, I keep calling Selvin Edwin. I'm sorry. I keep seeing you guys in the same comment together. Selvin, my brother from another mother, is talking about how DID solutions, decentralized identity, rely on trusting a governing body and zero knowledge proofs, math, for proof. He says it's a negligible improvement, but I would push back on that and say I see it as nothing short of revolutionary. Whereas before I had to rely on some level at a human intermediary who controlled a piece of hardware, which controlled a piece of software, right? I am trusting Mark Zuckerberg to run Facebook's servers in accordance with their terms and agreement, which I don't have much power over. But now, when we are using a protocol that is checked and balanced by all the users of a network that anyone anywhere can see, and that is protected by encryption, zero knowledge proofs, what we're doing, in my mind, is we are inverting that relationship. Now we have a protocol, a piece of code or software that anybody can see. The incentive is to operate. I say the incentive. A piece of software that anybody can see and that nobody or entity can willingly subvert or thwart. The way Mark Zuckerberg can change that computer. In my mind, that is nothing short of like revolutionary. And so I would be curious, when you talk about it's a negligible improvement, help me understand that better. To my knowledge, this is innovative. It is the first time we have had computers that are able to make commitments like this, that aren't subject to the whims of powerful people or companies. So I'd like to know more on that. And I don't know if you think differently, Alex. Maybe I'm missing it, something in Selvin's question there, or maybe you have a different opinion about it. But to me, I actually think that's a huge improvement. But I really, Selvin has a lot of experience, and I love him. He's a good guy worth listening to. That's transactional safety, which is the improvement. Edwin says, proving you're 21 to buy liquor without showing. Yeah, without showing your ID. Right. But I would also say it's systemic safety. I don't know what's on the other side of transactional, though. Maybe you mean something else. And it might be hard to talk about in the comments. Selvin, if you're free, Alex, I know we're at our 90 minutes, but Selvin's a friend of the show, and I'd be glad to have you on, Selvin. If not today, maybe another time. And also, I would say to anybody listening, that's something we want to do. I think Daniel was in here early talking about reverse gas fees. Selvin is someone I'd love to have who has a great perspective on all things tech, not just blockchain. I think if there are other people, we would love to have a panel one day. Maybe this would be a good topic at the end of next week or something like that. We could get a panel together kind of around the Web3 101 conversation and just let everybody answer people's questions. I always worry, though, on TikTok that it'll devolve into a, oh, Max here, and Selvin's here, and what token should I buy? kind of conversation, Tori says, I love that use case, meaning zero knowledge proofs to verify identity, to explain to people about how I don't want a bouncer to know my address. Absolutely.
Yep.
What a clunky mechanism it is that I got to use my identification to prove to you I'm 21 years old and show you my address and show you all this incriminating information about me. No, we can do better.
Yeah, there's all kinds of applications too in the world of medical privacy and expanding, like HIPAA and all of that sort of stuff. If I'm going to my dentist who needs to see my medical record for something, do they really need to see all of it, or do they just need to see the piece of it that's relevant to what it is that they're going to do? And there's some pretty interesting ways that we'll get into smart contracts later in a different lesson and how that stuff works and all that sort of stuff. But
Alex, there's a lot of stuff we're going to have to get into later. This is a big day, and it was great because we had a lot of questions. But I think we might have left people with even more questions. I don't know. Is that a good thing? That might be a good thing.
Probably.
So then, as we wind it down, let me do two things, maybe three. The first thing is, we would not invite you to give us your attention without offering you something in return. And the meager gift that we have to give you, it is paltry, but it's, we think, pretty great,
Awesome.
is we want to give you the opportunity to own a piece of your experience as a person who watches this show. So we have created for you a POAP. A POAP, Alex, what the heck is it? And how can they get it?
So a POAP is a cool way to prove using blockchain that you did a thing. And all you need to do to claim one is just download the POAP app on your preferred mobile device. In Evan's case, that's an iPhone 1. And create a free account. You do not need a crypto wallet address or anything like that. You certainly can, but it's not required. And all you need to do is enter the secret passphrase that Evan is going to give you here, which we gave you a piece of it yesterday, give you a piece of it today, another piece tomorrow, and on Thursday, the final piece. You put all of them together, and you get to claim the POAP, the Proof of Attendance Protocol token for this week of the show.
Yeah. In this case, the token proves that you were here, and it also proves that you are the owner of one of several provably unique pieces of this awesome artwork that you can't see the entirety of, but that's why you got to get the POAP, is so that you can see the whole cool. Alex has been churning out some really cool artwork for the show. And of course, it's yours to claim when you take that secret word into our Discord server. There's a channel called Bot Hub. It's got a button that says POAP. You just type it in, all lowercase, no spaces, easy peasy secret phrase, and you, yes, even you can claim your very own POAP attached to a piece of awesome art. The secret word today, my friends, is learn. Learn, learn. That is the secret word today. And if you missed the secret word yesterday, you got a couple options. Option number one, which is not very feasible, is to go back to YouTube and just scour our whole recording for it. What a terrible use of your time, unless you're a nerd and you want to learn this stuff, which we are, let's be honest. But I think the best way to do it would be to jump into the Discord and just ask somebody in the general chat, hey, who saw the show yesterday? What was the secret word? There's no rules. You're allowed to do that. That's totally okay. Tell them you'll give them the secret word for today. Whatever, do fun stuff like that. And we'll continue to make it fun in the future. We might gamify this a little by telling you we've written the secret word on a $20 bill somewhere in Home Depot in Des Moines, Iowa. Go find it, so our folks can have fun with a little quest or a little puzzle. But for now, today's secret word is learn. Yesterday's secret word is yours to discover. Go check it out by talking to people in the Discord. It's discord.gg/the-many, or ask someone in the comments right here. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. UTC, and we're going to continue this conversation around this week's theme, and we might extend it a little bit into next week to Web3 101. We're slowing things down to take it back to what this is and why it matters to everyday people like us. Alex, do you have strong thoughts about tomorrow's format that we can tease? I almost feel like maybe we should just talk about the architecture of Bitcoin and Ethereum a little more specifically again to continue unpacking these kind of questions and answers. But
I think so.
What do you think, man?
Do I have strong feelings about it? No, but that sounds like a great plan to me.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover in terms of what is a token, what are tokenomics, smart contracts, all these terms that seem highly technical but are really very practical and which we can make down to earth. So until then, my friends, if you've got questions, join us in the Discord. I'll tell you one more time, it's discord.gg/the-many. Alex, final thoughts, good jokes, words of wisdom?
Well met.
Well met. I will leave you without a sound effect that I would usually have. I still haven't found my chord. I am going to give you a crypto fortune cookie. This is a quotation from Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum, and it is our final thought for today. Whereas most technologies tend to automate workers on the periphery doing menial tasks, blockchains automate the center. Instead of putting the taxi driver out of a job, blockchain puts Uber out of a job. And I had a phone call.
I was going to say,
yeah,
the punchline was
the
muted.
nugget is this: instead of putting a taxi driver out of a job, blockchain puts Uber out of a job and lets the taxi drivers work with the customer directly. That's what Vitalik says. Got rugged by the phone, man. Well, Alex, thanks for being here with me today, brother. Everybody, thanks for being here today. Tori Selvin, Edwin, Mashiste. It's great to be with you guys, and we will be back with you tomorrow. Until next time, my friends, rise up.